Hi everyone, how are you feeling today? We are on the 15th of September and I am really happy to welcome in few minutes Melissa Weinmiller for her amazing Robinson Weinmiller for her amazing book The Empathic Leader and talking about cultures and languages. So right now I'm going to check if I'm live on LinkedIn and YouTube. And in the meantime, I'm presenting a video for you and see you in 2 or 3 minutes.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
We are live and I am really blessed. Just going to check if I am audible. Welcome, Melissa. And you can activate your mic if you can. I'm just going to check because normally I didn't cut the tab. Sometimes it happens, you know. I hear something.
Yes? Am I here now?
Yeah, I hear you well. So welcome. As you decided to go to the circle cam, I'm going to be back to the circle cam too and be with you right there. Let me just check. Okay. Technology is amazing when it works. So I am ready. Am I ready? I don't know. Okay, I am ready. So I'm managing this demain de maître, and it's amazing because now I can zoom so that we see each other's in the full screen. So welcome, Melissa. How are you feeling today?
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much. I'm excited. I'm thrilled to be able to do this with you. It's going to be fun. It will be fun.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited. At the same time, I'm just going to check because the technology is sometimes I have to clear some tabs, you know, some tabs that I have to clear so that the load, the bandwidth, and all is fine. So I just close some tabs and I'm here at you. I'm always imperfectly unprepared, but I am here with you. and I will give you a surprise, a treat for you. Um, but from now on, I would like to introduce you to my incredible audience, and you are also incredible. So, who is Melissa?
Well, I'm an expert on empathy and leadership, but also just on empathy in general. I'm finishing up my doctorate and dissertation on empathy and leadership, and I decided to study it after having a very toxic work situation for me, but also seeing the horrible situations that other people have been in. So that's what I do. I speak. I speak internationally. Last year I got to speak at Cambridge and at Oxford. I write. I have a book that I released July 15th that is already bestseller in 4 countries in multiple categories on Amazon. And I do coaching, mostly corporate, but also some one-on-one with people who just want to be able to tap into their empathy better.
Wow, that's incredible. And right now, I'm going to share your book and to let you know that I was already buying that. I don't, can I see? Okay, I can see your book in my history, and then I can unzoom so that I will be able to share the book in my room. So, welcome to Go Brunch, by the way. It's amazing because Go Brunch is allowing to do many things, including sharing. I feel like a bit like Inception because I am in my Restream sharing my Go Brunch room. And within my Go Brunch room, I share right now the, the book of, uh, of yours, your book, which is this one that I'm sharing up to the screen. And here, if you see my screen, there is the empathic leader. And I bought it already in July, by the way. So that's an amazing book. And I prepare to you an amazing treat for later. So let us know a bit like about your book. What led you to write this book?
I wanted kind of a manual. So I'm working out my own methodology on how to actually teach empathy as something that's skills based, because empathy isn't just about feeling. There's 43 different kinds of empathy. And the one that I feel what you feel is one of them, but it's not all of them. And I wanted to be able to actually train people on empathy and how you can use it as a skills based thing, especially for those in business to be able to have innovation profit. There's studies, there's hard data that shows that if you do use this in business correctly, you can have better profit, productivity, and innovation. And I wanted something that I could put in people's hands and say, this is how you do it. So that's why I wrote it.
Wow, incredible. So what is amazing is that in French, empathy is empathie, is the same. There is just a THIE instead of THY, but it's in English empathy, and in French empathie. So like empathie, and 43 different kinds of empathy. That's incredible. I was not imagining that as much. Can you quote
Yeah.
some?
Well, I mean, the three that I talk about specifically in the book are I mean, there's a lot more, but I think these are the three leadership really need to know. So I focus in on emotional empathy, which is the I feel what you feel kind of empathy. Cognitive empathy, which is I logically understand what you're feeling, I just don't necessarily feel it. And self empathy, which is something that there's not a lot of research on, but I think is really important because if we can't give empathy to ourselves, how do we expect to give it to anybody else?
Hmm, that's true. And did you notice something that could be different in other languages or other cultures?
The big thing that I noticed is that other cultures teach empathy in schools, especially if we're talking like Norse countries.
Mm.
They actually teach what's called social emotional learning. In
Mm.
fact, it started getting deeper in France just in the last year or so.
Mm.
So, especially in the Norse countries, they start teaching empathy as part of this social emotional learning as young as the age of 6, and it will go all the way through to the age of 16. So that what that says is their culture feels it's important enough to actually have it in the schools. In the United States, we don't do that. We tried to integrate some social emotional learning, and people tried to turn it into something that it wasn't. So it has kind of a bad reputation. Unfortunately, what that means is by the time people get to leadership age, they already don't have any idea what to do with this empathy thing. Whereas in other countries, they've already started it at a very young age.
Mm. And I think like in US, especially right now, we need empathy more and more, because it's really important at school from the start, and to also allow space for others to express, because even if we think we are right, allowing others to express is important, because else we are going always to have a clash, to have a confrontation, and oh, I am right and you are wrong. And because in a sense, when I say I am right, it means even if I don't say it loudly, it means that you are wrong. So but what if no one is right and no one is wrong? I was remembering a picture of two people standing in front of each other, and kind of a number on the ground. And for the first one is 6, but for the other one is 9, because of the perspective
Yeah.
upside down. So nothing is right, nothing is wrong. So what are your thoughts about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the big things that empathy allows is for us to ask why. Why do you feel that way? Why do you believe that way? Help me understand your perspective. And that doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but it means that I am trying to step outside of my bubble and into yours and understand the why instead of just putting up a big barrier and saying, that's it. And just think about it. Because when empathy works at its best, it works in both directions. So if I'm asking why, and so are you, we have a much better chance of actually communicating and not just screaming at each other.
Yeah, and what I like is that I'm introducing some French. Why in French is pourquoi, and pourquoi could be separated by for what. So it could be like for what reason. Why could be like for what reason.
Yeah.
And I for me, I agree absolutely about what you are saying, and also that we need to ask ourselves questions and to be curious when it comes to discover the other.
Yes. Yep. I absolutely agree. And I do find it interesting how the word empathy does translate into other languages because really it means M, which means in, and pathos, meaning feeling. So, I mean, that goes all the way back to Latin. So, any of the Latin languages, it's going to fall into something close.
Ah, yeah, yeah. But also the fact that for some cultures or languages, including English, some words could have a lot of charge or uh, bad connotation, like grief. Grief is a word that is having a lot of sad connotation. And pathos, I don't know in English, but in French it could be like, oh, you are acting crazy, or you should stop to catch your feeling, because sometimes it's like, oh, there is an expression in French, by the way. Make I don't know if there is a similar in English. You make your cinéma. Tu fais ton cinéma. When someone is acting, and of course the other one is not appreciating or is not believing what the other is expressing, like, oh, you are making your cinema, like it's a movie, it's not real. So I feel like it's like some words are also double sword, like terrible. I don't know in English, but in French, terrible could be both positive or negative.
Yes. And in English, I mean, it kind of depends because there's terrible, but then it's also the root of terrific, which,
Exactly. Terror.
you know, right, exactly. Well, we do have something similar too with the when you talk about making your own cinema, we call it drama. You're
Yeah.
creating drama. So it's the same sort of thing. Plus with pathos, that's where we get the word pathetic. And if you say that in English, that means that you're pretty sad and in a, wasted kind of way, or pathétique, like a sonata
Yeah.
by Beethoven, you know.
Oh, exactly. And so, just to let know our audience, whatever you are watching live on replay, feel free to ask any questions to Melissa or to I. Happy to reply. And you can join our Go Brunch room by going to gobrunch.com/refrenchyourbrain. The link is scrolling in the bottom of my feed on YouTube or LinkedIn. And here I am going to give you a treat because I was having a busy day, but I was having some time to catch into. So I'm just going to check. Okay. I think, yeah, because I'm in Inceptions, I see two tabs shared. So I hope I will share the right tab. Normally it's shared. And now I give you the treat of naming your chapters in French. So you have
Oh,
the first part that you see in the screen.
uh-huh.
And then I was not having the time to finish the whole, so we can do it together, by the way. But for instance, the part one in French, comprendre l'intelligence émotionnelle à travers l'empathie, où commencer. That means to understand the IQ via empathy, where to begin. That's the first part. And containing the first chapter, où commencer, where to begin, and then the chapter 2, définir l'empathie, define the empathy, and the chapter 3, comment puis-je apprendre l'intelligence émotionnelle à travers l'empathie? How could I learn the EQ through the empathy? And then the last chapter of the part 1 is la charité commence par chez soi, which means charity begins home. That's right. Commence à la maison could be also like that. What are your thoughts about the first part and the first chapters?
You mean about the translation in French
Could be
or
could
our
be could be the translation, or could be also explaining what contains your book, the chapters.
so really chapter 1, because the thing with the book is while I talk about empathy, I mean, that's my thing. I talk about empathy. This book in particular looks at emotional intelligence,
Mm.
which is a bunch of skills. And for a long time, they lumped empathy in with these skills. And I actually think empathy has to happen first. You have to have empathy before you can reach into emotional intelligence skills. So, like when we're talking about chapter 2, it's a pretty thick chapter. It spends a lot of time talking about empathy,
Wow.
about what it is, about what it isn't, because we have a lot of myths around empathy in our culture, and also how it plugs into emotional intelligence skills for better leadership. Because we're in a time where we have a lot of toxic leadership and toxic leadership situations. And empathy is a direct antidote to that.
And indeed, in order to practice the empathy, we have to be clear about how to define the empathy.
Yes.
Because
Yep.
I've been following a lot of webinars about that, and there is a difference between compassion and empathy. There are the thin line between having compassion and being empathetic, and I think it's more it has to be theoretical, but it has also to be practical.
Well, it has to be theoretical in that we got to be talking about the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of people lump empathy and compassion and sympathy and these things into one big ball, But if you actually define what each is, usually people can't. So we can't have an intelligent conversation about this if we're not talking about the same thing. So that's the reason why I actually dig in on it. And what I'm talking about isn't my opinion. It comes from research. I mean, this is what's going on in my doctorate. I'm finishing a thesis or
Wow.
a dissertation on empathy and leadership. So it's not like I said, well, I think this is what empathy is, and I think this is what compassion. This is what the research says. So, now we can start to have an intelligent conversation about it because we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And because we have decades of research and also the neuroscience. I think there is
Yep.
also a lot of research about the neuroscience, about, especially for me, it's really something that is dear to my heart because as a language coach, it's not that I need to be empathetic. I don't need to be empathetic, but well, it's my choice also. It's not a need. It's a desire. But also to help my learners to learn. I I choose also to be empathetic, because then I can also. It's up to me to remove my shoes and to dance in their space, because have I have information to convey, but at the same time, it's not like the old way of the 60s, the 70s. It has to be from them, and it has to be. It works when it's from them, because if it's from me and they are um, forced to learn, then the learning will not happen. So that's why the neuroscience is really incredible. Like, for instance, the pain and the social pain trigger the same part of the brain. And the only thing that changes is that maybe the physical pain can last days, weeks, sometimes months, but then it disappears. But social pain remains as long as it's not acknowledged and treated. Like the body keeps the score. It's the same with the brain and the nervous system. If it's not acknowledged and processed, then it's going to be again and again and again. And the past will be the present and will be the future. What are you thought about that?
You're talking about trauma response
Also,
and yeah, and some of the mental things that deal with that. And I am not an expert in trauma response.
yeah,
I I look at empathy, and you're right. It does. There's basis of it in biology, in neurobiology, in psychology, and in philosophy. So empathy actually spans a lot of different things. I mean, as far as the trauma stuff goes, I mean, I have my own opinions, and I mean, I know some very, very good people in the field, but it's not my area of study.
yeah. But at the same time, it's up to us to just be human, to say, I see you, I do my best to understand you. I'm not living what you live, because even if I came to the same experience, we are two different beings. So I will never at 100% live what anyone else going through the same lived. But at the same time, it's up to me to say, I hear you, I see you, and I do my best to understand. And I think that in a nutshell, is that empathy?
Yes, I mean, that's part of it. That's perspective taking. That's that ability to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand. But the interesting thing about empathy is you don't have to actually do anything. You're not
Hmm.
taking responsibility. You're not doing something for somebody. You're not trying to fix anything. You're just in the feeling. It's what Brene Brown calls being in the suck. So, yes, you want to be able to be in that other person's bubble. But as far as empathy is concerned, that's it. Action is compassion. That's something different. So when we're talking about empathy and being able to be in someone else's space and just be in that feeling with them, that's very much what we're talking about.
Thank you so much. And now we are going to the part 2 of the book, L'empathie en action, which is the empathy in action. and I was going through some chapters translation. The chapter 5, Comment j'emploie l'empathie comme leader. You notice that in French we are also using leader, could be meneur, dirigeant, dirigeur, but we are using a lot of English terms also. So how do I use the empathy as a leader? And then the chapter 6, that's really important also because it's about the new technology. AI est l'apogée des machines, les connexions humaines et la technologie. So the rise of the machines, and then how to foster human connections and through the technology. That's also important. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, just we're in a time where you're not going to get away from it. I mean, between AI and big tech and big data and a lot of the things that are going on in businesses, we're going to get more of it, not less. But the interesting thing is especially with AI, it can mimic empathy very closely, but it can't have empathy. Because really, if you want a definition of what all 43 kinds of empathy are and how it all works, a big umbrella, it's understanding and connection. And AI, it can make it look like it understands and connects, but it doesn't. So the more we fall into these kind of technological marvels, the more we need to double down on the humanistic side of things and being able to understand and connect with one another.
And for that, I'm going to have a challenging question for you about AI. Do you think that you can add the word yet to it, or would you think that AI will never ever be able to mimic human empathy?
I'd never say never about anything because the world that we live in, anything is possible.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's possible immediately because of the way large language models learn. So one of my masters is actually a master's of statistics and data analysis, and I had
Oh.
to program large language models. And because of the way that they're programmed and put together, they're not really made for empathy. They're made to scrape large amounts of data and be able to proactively put out the answer that they think that you want. So none of that actually falls under the category of understanding and connection. Could it happen? Who knows? I mean, seriously, who knows? But not the way we're doing it now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we need also to bring ethics, because there are some cases where AI is doing a lot of harm to a human being. I remember 1 or 2 years ago, it was in Belgium, someone taking their life just because of interaction with an AI, a dating AI, I think. And then a case like 1 or 2 or 3 years, weeks ago with OpenAI, also another person taking his life, a young person. So it's really something that we need to refocus on ethics also. And so right now I'm acting without any court. So could you give me the title of the chapter number 7?
I can get a copy of the book and tell you what it is. I don't know what it is right off.
Okay, sorry. That I'm going then to go to do that because I have the Kindle right now. It's just like a different view on EQ via empathy and actionable data. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, actionable empathy, that's what I talk about. So it's actually taking, if you want to be really detailed about what it is, I'm advocating for taking empathy into the compassion realm, which means taking action on it, making it skill-based, making it actionable. Because if you think of emotional intelligence, it's kind of a big tool basket with a bunch of stuff in it. There's communication, motivation, connection, and there's hammers and saws and chisels and all these tools in it. But if you don't use empathy first to understand and connect with your people, you don't know when you reach into that bag if you want a hammer or a saw. So in order to actually be able to use emotional intelligence actionably, first you connect and understand with empathy, and then you move into emotional intelligence. The first article on emotional intelligence came out in 1990, and then the big book that came out on it was by Daniel Goleman, and that was in 1995. So we've been
Mm,
talking about this for 35 years, and we still haven't figured out how to be able to integrate it effectively into our businesses. Now,
mm.
I don't believe this is going to fix everything, but I do believe it's a good start, and it kind of beats what we're doing now.
Hmm. So here, on the fly, I translated in French une vue différente sur l'intelligence émotionnelle via l'empathie et les données actionnables. I love that because it's about being able to do something with the data that we have, not only having data for the sake of having data, but how
Mhm.
could we use data to foster more empathy? And that's incredible because it's about using machines, and in order to elevate humanity and empathy. That's something that is really incredible because I would imagine that we couldn't really use AI to improve empathy. I would say that AI could be a cold steel when it comes to empathy, because we AI is based on data, on the brain, and not on the heart. So I'm really curious to know your thought about that.
Well, AI isn't even based on the brain. It's a large language model, so it goes in and scrapes huge, massive bits of information, like, everything that's on the internet. So really, at best, it's a parrot. It's parroting back what's already out there.
Mm,
Unfortunately, that means because there is a lot of bias on the internet, there's a lot of misinformation that's out there. There's a lot of stuff that humans that have put out there that isn't good. AI is pulling that in as well. And it isn't a brain. It can't look at it and say, this is good, this is accurate, this is not. It just pulls it all in. That's how large language models learn. I mean, they say learn, but they really don't. They just scrape and dump. So, until AI is super cool and it's an amazing tool and it's very, very powerful. But the way it stands right now, it really has no connection with empathy. In fact, there's been a couple cases right now of using AI and other large language models to be able to substitute for therapy and behavioral health. And unfortunately, because of the way it's made, it's causing people that are already mentally sick to really spiral into worse psychoses, into schizophrenia, into harming themselves. Like you had said, there's a case coming through right now where a 14-year-old killed himself in Florida. So maybe someday, but not right now, and probably not tomorrow.
mm. Yeah, that was just a case that I was thinking, and that led OpenAI to act on it. But the thing is really sad is that they act on consequences. They don't act
Mhm.
by the root, because they don't think more than their own bubble, and their own bubble is about profit. They don't think about the consequences of their actions. At some point, it's like the tobacco pack, or anything related to the pills. I think, of course, it's like on the little 5 or 6 pixel, this kind of little lines to say contraindication, la da 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 da, or smoke can kill, these kind of things. And at some point, I think we could do see that on AI. Please don't do AI for this or that, or Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the chapter 8, the single greatest skill for EQ via empathy, communication, communication, communication. In French, la seule plus grande compétence pour l'intelligence émotionnelle à travers l'empathie, communication. And so, speaking and communication is also something that is not only with our voice. Communication, even by instance, I was aware about the fact that not saying anything is a way of communicating that we ignore, or that we don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's lots of ways to communicate. It's not always verbal. But the interesting thing is that the root of the word, commune, still means to share, where you're sharing it out with somebody else or lots of somebody else. I think it's communar or communare, maybe. So, I mean, whether it's verbally or any other way, the whole point is we're sharing it. It's the root of the word communal. So,
Mm.
since we're into linguistics today.
That's it. That's why I'm happy to give you a way for sharing your thoughts, your amazing book, because it's a long walk. It took you weeks and months to build that book, and now
Yeah.
to be this ambassador, to dance with your book and say, hey, about empathy, I have this, read it please. And that's why, for instance, I'm happy to invite you, and at some point, maybe whenever we have time, to have a book club, what I'm doing with Les Ryan, by instance, with his book about fearlessly fluent fast, about how to uh, find tricks to learn language. And so then there is the chapter 9 and the chapter 10 of the part 3. And no, I'm not going to write it because I'm going to voice it. So part 3, empathy essentials, les essentiels de l'empathie. The chapter 9 is middle management, culture, and the role of top leadership, which is I never know how to translate that, but la gestion du milieu, the middle management, la gestion intermédiaire, let's say, la culture et le rôle du top leadership. Ouais, you can say that. And chapter 10, flags everywhere. Could you tell me a bit like what is inside the chapter 9 about the leadership?
So chapter 9 being about middle management.
Yeah.
The thing is with those that are in those middle management positions, like directors and managers, they have the opportunity to lead both up and down, you know? So these are the people that I actually prefer to work with because I think they show the most promise. And also, they're going to be the ones that someday are the top leadership. So I think they're the ones that stand a chance of actually getting hold of talk about, because some of the top leadership, they don't want to change their ways. They
Mm.
don't want to hear about it. They don't want to know that there's something different. So I do work with some top leadership, but mostly my hope is for these people in these middle leadership positions. Plus, they tend to be a younger generation and generations that are more open to this idea that there's a different way to go about doing business.
Mm. Cool. Yeah, we need that really to make corporate also aware that they need humans. If they are not embracing humanity, then they are not going to be able to continue in the 21st century. And then I was really curious because chapter 10, flags everywhere. And I'm just going to discover the chapter. The most dangerous red flag a leader can show is the inability to face their own vulnerabilities, from Brené Brown also. And so it's overlooked warning signs and paying the price. Can you tell us more about your last chapter?
Yeah. So at least in this country, when you're dating, they talk about red flags and beige flags. And
Mm.
beige flags are like, I don't love this, but this is something that I understand that people are just different. And red flags are, yeah, just run. Destroyed by this person.
Mm. And that's very interesting because in the red flag is like the carton rouge, which is the when the referee is acknowledging a penalty, something that the player did wrong. And really, it's not really slightly. when there is it depends on the sport, because on football the guy is expulsed, manu military, and forever. He cannot play anymore. But on some sport, I think it's okay. I'm hockey. I don't know, but in hockey, the red flag means 15 minutes. So the guy could be back after 15 minutes. So it depends on the rules of so the sport. But there is a main thing. The red flag is for me. It's like the carton rouge. Like there is no way to proceed anymore with this player, because this player really harmed the other player in football, for instance. And I mean in the European football, not the American football, because it's even more violent in the American football, in the soccer football in US. But then
Yeah.
there is the beige. It's really interesting, because here we say carte jaune, which is the yellow, the kind of a yellow flag, which is you did wrong, but I give you the benefit of the doubt. But the next one, the next yellow card will be the red card, because two yellow card means one red card at the end. So that's really interesting. So right now we are going at the end of the session, because you are very generous with our time, and I'm going to be back to share. I'm going to share. Uh, so let us know where to find you and your ultimate message.
So you can find the easiest place to find me. I mean, since this is on LinkedIn, is probably on LinkedIn. So you can just find my profile there. I have a website. It's called EQ Via, which is V as in Victor, IA, empathy, where I do have a freebie. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can do all that stuff. And I also have a podcast, which I do every week, called The Empathic Leader. And you can catch that on Spotify and Apple and, the usual Google Play, plus on YouTube. So, and of course, my book's on Amazon. And until the end of the month, the Kindle is only 99 cents. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I'm sharing right now your book in Amazon. Pum, 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 pum. Yeah, so that's it. The Empathic Leader: How EQ via Empathy Transforms Leadership for Better Profit, Productivity, and Innovation. So,
Yep.
if then for the last words, if you have a billboard in the whole entire universe that will convey your message about empathy, what this message you will be?
That you always need to keep a cool head and a warm heart,
Hmm. And why?
because you don't want your emotions to get out of control. You don't want to be the yelling, screaming, not understanding the other person's point of view. So you want to keep a cool head. But you do want to keep a warm heart and understand that there are other human beings, and that, the more you can get into their bubble and the more they can get into yours, the better connection and understanding you're going to have.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Melissa, for your work, for your friendship also. You are such an incredible person. And are you still a good clarinet player, or is it part of your past?
It's a French horn. It's a core.
Ah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah.
But
French horn. Yeah.
yep, I haven't been able to play much lately, but I still play a lot of piano, and I'm working on getting a cover band back together so I can do some singing.
Ah, your voice singing. We need more singing. So
Yeah.
thank you with that. I was not having any session on the Restream, YouTube, LinkedIn. So if it's about the tech and you did ask questions, I'm going to be back on that. And if you are part of the replay team, thank you so much for watching us, because the blessing is that people can watch us minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, or even years after our show. Who knows? So thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Muito obrigado. Merci beaucoup. And right now I'm going to end